SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Engineering, Medical and Health Sciences, Management, Dental, Science and Humanities, Law, Agriculture Sciences, Hotel Management. Admissions open. SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Engineering, Medical and Health Sciences, Management, Dental, Science and Humanities, Law, Agriculture Sciences, Hotel Management. Admissions open.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. The SRM Institute of Science and Technology presents the Hindu EducationPlus Career Counselling webinar series. Today, we will be discussing the current and emerging career opportunities in the field of architecture. I'm Radhika Santanam, Assistant Editor with the Hindu, and I will be moderating the panel today. Each speaker today will speak for about 5 minutes, and then we will open the floor to questions from the audience. I will start by introducing our distinguished speakers. First, we have Dr. P. Satish Kumar, Dean, School of Architecture and Interior Design, SRM Institute of Science and Technology. He is elected Council Member, Council of Architecture, New Delhi, 2019 to 22. Dr. Satish Kumar has won several awards. The Best Architect Award from Dr. Mayuswamy Annadurai, then Director, ISRO Satellite Center. The Best Teacher Award from Dr. Vishwanathan, Chancellor, Vellore Institute of Technology. An Honorary Doctorate in the area of Education and Research from IVUPE, Bangalore. An Outstanding Member Award from the Indian Institute of Architects, Tamil Nadu Chapter, and many more. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. Next, we have Habib Khan, the President of the Council of Architecture. In 1990, he started his own private practice, Smita and Habib Khan Architects, which mostly deals with campus designs, institutions, and wildlife resorts. He too has won several awards. The JIIA Best Interior Design Award by the Indian Institute of Architects in 98, the IIA-KAFF Young Architects Award in 2000, the Orange City Achievement Award in 2009, and State Level Excellence in Architecture and Education Award by the IIA Maharashtra chapter in 2011, to name just a few. He is currently the director of the Priyadashini Institute of Architecture and Design Studies, Nagpur, and Lokmanya Tilak Institute of Architecture and Design Studies, Mumbai. Thank you, sir, for participating in the discussion today.
Very good evening to all of you. We are going live with the webinar.
Yes, SRM, we shall learn and live. Yes, SRM, we shall learn and live and lead. Yes, SRM, here we learn and live and lead. Yes, SRM, we shall learn and live and lead.
SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Engineering, Medical and Health Sciences, Management, Dental, Science and Humanities, Law, Agriculture Sciences, Hotel Management. Admissions open.
Hope the video went on very clear. Okay. Good evening, all attendees, dear students, parents, and our fellow colleagues of SRM IST. So today's webinar, Endeavor of Success Made Easy. The key for anyone interested in pursuing a computer career is determining which area suits them best and then following an education and employment path to success.
Of course, we are amidst of all the other institutions across the 250 acres. We miss out only veterinary college. That's a fall college we have, and out of which architects is one. And out of this 2,000 square feet of space of the library, we have 6 books of 355 titles, bound volumes of journals, periodicals and thesis reports, and a lot of digital-based computers and a lot of softwares with e-journals and compact discs. We have a very beautiful computer lab with about 2,700 square feet and 40 in each, and altogether we have about 120 computers plus other 15 for the faculty members and post-graduation, and we also have A0 scanners, plotters and printers. And latest versions of all updated software, we have all licensed and institutional versions. With other acoustic simulations for all the research scholars, we have purchased it very newly. We also have BARC 5 years along with MARC 2 years program. And the job prospectus is very wide. I'm sure it's up to the architect to get into. We also have any BR graduate can get into real-time practice as an architect in an infrastructure company, and they can also be a freelance architect, the conservationist architect to preserve heritage process, architectural photographer, architectural journalist, exhibition designer, movie set designer, public and private sector, and many more. I make it more detailed because we are addressing to the 9, 10, 11, 12 class students. And we also have a MARC Advanced Architecture Studies and architecture firm. They can get into real-time projects and urban planning, planning department, infrastructure projects, freelance architects, real estate planning, conservation architect, academician, researchers, and many more as specializations. And we also offer other programs like BDS interior design for 4 years program, and we also started MDS public space design this year. And we also have very high infrastructure facilities, and the BDS graduate also has a very good equal competency. Of course, the 4-year degree program, which comes under AICTE. The interior design also work in an architectural interior firm, and interior design is a turnkey contracting firms, freelance interior designers, interior photographers, interior design magazine journals, exhibition designer, design movie sets, and many more. A lot more of a wide range of job prospects, and also talking about the members because it's a need of the hour. There's a lot of cinema sets and background and temporary exhibitions or kinetic architecture all came into existence, and now then we need, even today, due to the COVID conditions, the railway stations were converted, the trains were converted into ICUs, and the ships were converted. So all these kinds of things could be made by these MDS public space designers, and a lot of design opportunities available, and designers in terms of furniture, lighting, manufacturing industries, design professionals in healthcare sectors, that is the need of the hour today, in the hospitality sectors and office sectors, and set designers, academicians and researchers, they could become anything, and that is going to be much more near the hour today. And we also have a Doctor of Philosophy full-time, which is for minimum 3 years, and also for part-time minimum 4 years. And we also have a MS by research in some institutions. We do as MTech by research, and we also offering postdoctoral fellow, which is the proposals what we have from this year onwards. And we also have a proposal of starting out Bachelor of Planning with 4 years degree and Master of Planning 2 years degree. There's a lot more of highlights to happen, and it has the experimental learning with competent outcome, mapped curriculum, enhanced curriculum and syllabus to meet NEP and minimum standard of faculty education 2020 standards, and highly qualified and professionally dynamic faculty. Even though the Council of Faculty fix up the minimum prescribed standards, we as from SRM University looking at the higher standards. So we have a highly qualified and professional dynamic faculties and global industry standards with regular site visits and workshop, and most of the subjects we are working on hands-on and maximum exposures to practical aspects of the design. So we have a very good connect with the industry across the country, even across the globe. And we also have a lot of adjunct architects and visiting professors and a lot more, since we are exactly located in Chennai. And wide choice of professional electives in emerging area, which has been given up. And it's a very good state of art in infrastructure university of the country. And another one important one is the semester program. If anybody register or undergo the course at SRM, we send them to do a semester program. It's something like after completing the first year, that is 10 months of the program in the campus, they may be given opportunity to go abroad. We have signed MOU about 150 countries in the world, and any student can get into that if they are competent enough and go undergo the process, and they may be given opportunity to do the semester program for one minimum of 1 or 2 or maximum of 3 semesters. There's an opportunity given not only for the undergraduation but also post graduations. So that we also bring more of international students here. So in our campus you can see a mixed combination of South Indian, North Indian and also international scholars. You have a very good variety of students, not only UG, PG as well as in PhD. This year also we have got one full-time scholar from Nigeria doing PhD. So we have international education exposure, brighten career opportunities across the globe, and an opportunity to work with eminent professionals, because we do a lot of hands-on and we have a very good industrial connect, and we just put them into intern very well connected, and we follow them in a weekly duration, and acquire or improve self-confidence and independence, because at the end of the day, we give a best quality of educations and realizing dreams of nearly 25 students with the US, UK, and Singapore, and all these kind of institutions. We have already sent students for so many years, for more than 15 to 20 years time. MOU with other organizations we have organized. Like very recently, we have signed MOU with the Associated Chambers of Commerce Industry of India, ASSOCHAM New India, which is a green building institutions, and also we have signed an MOU with the IIT Mumbai. So, and we are also in the process of signing a few more MOUs. We have scheduled about 20 MOUs to be signed within this year, and one more is about Indian Green Building Council (IGBC), which is, we are working on the papers. And across the country, we are also working on the more of MOUs to be in the process. And that is what I think that gives a very good associations and good collaboration. And the training and development goes hand in hand, and we have organized during the webinar, during the pandemic period also, we have taken effective steps along with the faculty team and the students team, and also associated with all the architectural institutions across the state and country. And we have organized alumni talk and celebrity talk, research talk, international talk series, and design enhancement studio sessions, and much more of awareness programs like this. And we also organize one informative program like intellectual property rights program. So a lot more of other programs. I'm just listing out very minimum here due to lack of time, but still a lot more of exchange we have organized. We have a lot of people who came and got the awards, programs, trained peoples, and we respect our alumni, and these are proud alumni what we have, and we made them to speak to our students, our budding architects. And these are the celebrities who came forward and supported our institutions during the pandemic period. And we did a very wide range of celeb talks. Our Honorable President is also here along with us, and other eminent personalities. And it's a very great opportunity for us, and we never thought it is a pandemic period. We took it as a very good opportunity, and we also gone internationally, and a lot of international speakers were brought into the Zoom platform, and we had given, and it's all made YouTube live. And the education is free and it's been shared across the globe. And research talk series, we have brought about eminent architects, which has been listed here, and the doctorates of this particular region, and they're all the doctoral committee members of our university, and they all came forward and made a very good presentations during the session. And we have many more achievements to say. We just listed very minimum here. And we in 2001 to 2005 we did zonal NASA hosted by the school. And 2009, we hosted 52nd Annual National Convention. And 2014, we had avant-garde panel discussions. 2016, we also had Zonal NASA Convention. And 2012, 14, 18, 19, we also hosted festivals for the environment, architecture and built environment, because our campus is a green campus and certified first in the country. And in 2019, we also organized the Prachodhyat, a national symposium. And in 2020, we are working on different kind of programs, of course, as listed. And achievement of the faculty and our faculty, of course, me and also along with my faculty team, we got the Best Institution Award from the National Architecture and Interior Design Excellence Awards from and Conference in 2020. And we also awarded based for the infrastructure, quality infrastructure and innovative approach category in the year 2020. And our beloved faculty and design chair, Professor Vayabur, is awarded for his Lifetime Achievement Award. And our faculty's Professor Pradeepa has got the gold medal for paper publications on comparative aspects of classrooms and auditorium acoustics on the research day. And also other Professor Kritika has also got a silver award on the shield for the paper presentation on the research topic in the 35th year celebration. And once again, Professor Pradeepa has also got the young researcher and outstanding for the outstanding and remarkable achievement in the field of teaching, research and publications. And Professor Geeta has been selected for the world's prestigious Global Education Award 2020 as a best researcher for the outstanding excellence and remarkable the performance in teaching. As a part of the annual NASA competitions, over 12 students from 2014-19 batch revamped the Chennai Corporation senior citizen park to cater, because we are also advanced to social and outreach to the kids as well. And Vishal Kumar of this 2012-17 batch received the prestigious National Award for Excellence in Architecture Thesis 2017 in the National Army Museum and Memorial at Delhi. And the same architect Vishal Kumar of 2012-17 batch received the JK AYA Best Architecture Student of the Year 2017 by the Council of Architecture for his Best Thesis Award. And a lot more of awards to be listed, but still, matter of fact, we made it very minimum. You can see this, and much more to come. But as a matter of fact, I'm just running it because I think it's all very important, because I'm addressing to these school children, which gives them more big motivations and good awareness about our institution and our course. And thank you very much. We invite all of you to be a part of our great celebrations. Join us for the future events and endeavors. Let's all celebrate great life in the field of architecture. Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. That seems SRM seems to have some very comprehensive courses. And I think your presentation has already probably answered some of the questions that students may have. So next, we'd like to invite Habib Khan. Sir, you were described as a celebrity. We can't wait for your talk, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Radhika. Good afternoon, everyone, my dear students. Dr. Srivatsan, Dr. Satish Kumar, Ms. Radhika, Mr. Shanmugam, and everyone at the Hindu. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. I bring warm greetings from the Council of Architecture. Satish has made my job difficult. I thought he was going to talk more of architecture and what is architecture all about. I will just try to share my thoughts about architecture. Contrary to public opinion that if you're good in design or handwork or you have artistic abilities, you can become an architect. But architecture, apart from being mother of all arts, as it is generally and usually called, is also a blend of technology. Without technology, architecture cannot exist. So architecture is a healthy blend of technology and art and creativity. But it provides, apart from qualifying you as an architect, it gives you a holistic development of your personality. Because the architectural education that you will undertake will have a wider ramifications, wider lateral ramifications of learning architecture. When you join architecture, you learn so many other subjects like humanities, history, economy, economics, and so many other multidisciplinary subjects. Architectural education is a combination of all these subjects put together. Architectural education is a very interesting and a very different kind of learning and education, where you have drawing work, where you have studios, where you have technical subjects, where you have structural design, where you have, apart from architectural design, you have so many other things that you need to learn. So it develops you into a holistic personality and you are ready to face the world in whichever field you think you can. Contrary to the importance of an architect in society, we think that architects and architecture plays a very important role in shaping a society. The tangible aspects of health are looked after by a doctor. When you are unwell, when you are having some disease, you go to a doctor and he prescribes medicines and he takes care of the health of the society. But an architect looks after the intangible aspects of the society, the health of the society, the intangible aspect which is not seen by the eye. And your clientele is not people who are ill or having diseases. They are people who use your spaces. And indirectly, you are actually affecting the quality of life of all the of your buildings. See, we have to live in buildings, we have to work in buildings, we have to use the buildings that an architect designs almost 24/7, uh, including even if you are outdoors, even those public spaces, urban design, urban civic spaces are designed by architects or people specializing in fields which are leading from architecture. So everything that you do in your life, in your conscious life, is designed by or taken care of by architects. And here, architecture plays a very important role, wherein you're looking after the after improving the quality of life, because directly or indirectly, the kind of spaces and the buildings that you design affect your mental health. And where the mental health of a nation, of a society is good, the society progresses. And that's how I feel architecture and architects play a very important role in the society and in shaping a country, in developing a country. So it's a very important and a very noble profession that that we all are in, and that I hope you all will become a part of. Like you will notice in the medical profession, you will have specializations. If your ear is not well, you'll go to a ear surgeon, a ear doctor. Throat is not well, you'll go to a ENT guy, heart, and so and so. And the practice of the traditional family physician is going down by the day. It's a day of specialization. And similarly, the case is in with architecture, where the specialization after basic architectural degree is very important and very pertinent. And without specialization in the coming days, in the coming decades, it will be very difficult for a plainly educated BR, Bachelor of Architecture, to practice as a consultant. So there are many avenues which Satish has listed in his presentation. There are various avenues of specialization that one goes to, and I don't think there is any other course at the undergrad level, at a professional level, which offers so wide an opportunity. I had once listed down about 26 to 30 branches and specializations that an architect can very effectively and very efficiently take. Urban design, urban planning, regional planning, landscape, heritage, conservation, interior design, product design, automobile design, visual communication, design of exhibitions, specialist furniture designs, set designs, filmmaking, film production, environmental concerns, and the list is endless where you can go to, and you can make your life depending on your interest areas. So I don't think there is any other branch like architecture which gives you so many avenues of specialization and so diverse a field where you can go to. I forgot project management consultancy and other financial aspects related to project control and project execution. There's so many things that one can go into. Now, the Council of Architecture is a statutory body under the Ministry of Education, and it is governed by an architect of 1972. And of those few professions which are regulated by a statutory body, which controls the education, which sets standards for education, which
40 full-time faculty members and more than
profession of architecture is a regulated profession, and we are at the council reach out to people, reach out to fraternity, reach out to society at large, increasing awareness of architecture, increasing the level of involvement of society in architecture, and so many other aspects which concerns directly or indirectly architecture. So it's a very nice and a very interesting field. It gives you a satisfaction because when you are creative, when you create something, you are in touch with your own self. So it not only makes you a technically sound, creatively sound professional, but it gets you in touch with your own soul, with your own selves, and it leads you to a very meaningful existence. And that is, I think, very important, and because that is what gives you satisfaction of being alive in this world. Everyone has this in mind. Everyone has this question in mind that what about the current pandemic and the future of architecture and architectural education in this country? So let us understand one thing first. That is, many severe pandemics have come earlier in the history of this society, and human race is very resilient. They have overcome all these, speed breakers in their development, in survival, and I'm sure we will also get over this unprecedented times that we are facing in our lives these days. And I'm also very sure that we'll spring back to action. There's a temporary setback. We stood at a traffic light where the traffic light has gone, malfunctioned, and we are waiting at a traffic signal a little longer than what we should wait. But we should utilize this opportunity to introspect and to analyze where we were going, how we were going, what will be the future of architecture, what should be the future of architecture, what should be the future of infrastructure development, and what should be the future of the way we live. And we will action very soon. There's a temporary setback, but that should not deter anyone from not taking architecture. It doesn't mean that if you are ill for a little while, you'll stop living or you stop breathing. You have to survive, and that is the positive attitude that we all should have. And I don't foresee any kind of what you call a setback, permanent setback, which will end the profession of architecture or infrastructure development. It's nothing like that. So let us be very open about it. Let us be very positive about it. But to conclude, I would only say that if you are really creative, and if you think you contribute in the building nation and contribute to the improving the quality of life of your fellow citizens, of your fellow countrymen, then you should take architecture, and it will give you a contentment, a satisfaction, which no other profession can give you. I thank you all once again for giving me this opportunity, and I'm open for questions after whenever you want to ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for introducing us to architecture and the various and telling us why it's so creative and so fulfilling. Next, next I invite Dr. Srivatsan to speak to the audience.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Hindu, Satish, and Habib, and Radhika. Good to be with friends, and more importantly, I'm very happy to meet all of you, though virtually. So let me sort of take a few minutes to explain. There's often a confusion with two words: building, architecture and design. So this is so people who first come to engage with architecture want to know what is the difference between a building and architecture. What is that an architect does, which an engineer can't do, etc. Now, to me, the difference between building and architecture is not a difference of kind. It is a difference of quality. Because when there are two different things, you have to find two different names. You can't call two different things with the same name. So the difference is a well-made building is an exalted building is an architecture. Okay, and normally we think architecture is about monuments like palaces, parliament buildings, etc. No, architecture is part of everyday life and also special buildings, also monuments. But whenever something is done with great amount of care, attention to function, attention to how it looks, attention to comfort, attention to environment and attention to the city in which it is located, then a building would qualify to become an architecture. Now, second, what is the difference between architecture and design? Because sometimes people come to me and ask, what is the difference between BArch and BDes? Okay, there are many differences, but let me explain in a very simple term. Now, architecture deals with designing building an object which is rooted in a place, okay, a site, a city. But a design normally deals with making of objects that need not necessarily be rooted in a place. So, for example, furniture, an handset, a laptop, these are objects, okay, that's design. Now, while that is a difference, there is a certain commonality between these three terms, okay. What is the commonality between architecture and design? Both of them look at three things fundamentally. It talks about anything that you want to make. All of us are making something. You make it for a purpose, okay? To make life easier, to live better, to speak well, communicate better, you need a device. So all of us do an object and it functions and serves its purpose. It has to be comfortable. I need to hold it well. It has to look good and so on. Now, third, it also has to be durable. You know, you can't make something which sort of crumbles and doesn't work, etc. Now, in recent times, two more important values have come into design. The fourth important value of design is its performance in the sense, suppose I design a house. It stands firm, it looks wonderful, it's a great place to live in, but I also want to know thermally how it is comfortable. Am I comfortable? Am I consuming less energy, more energy, etc.? So the performance quality is the fourth value a design possesses. The fifth value, which is now more and more becoming important, is how much resources am I consuming? What is the waste I'm producing? So now, no object in the design world or in the full world is accepted if it doesn't meet all these five criteria. So architecture is about making buildings and built environment. In fact, one architect, a famous architect, doesn't use anymore the word building. He in fact says, I'm creating atmosphere, not in a very abstract sense. An atmosphere includes building, environment, the landscape, the city, etc. So because a building makes a deep impact on the place and the people they live. Okay. So I hope this sort of broadly tells you what this is. Some numbers for you, because you must be all wondering what is the state of architecture. Mr. Habib Khan's organization, Council, to which all of us have registered, have recently produced a commendable report. There's some important data they have put together. One, currently we have more than 450 colleges, and we have got architects who are, if you see the ratio between population and architects, the council has stated there is one architect for about 16,000 people. And that's in council's estimate, which is correct, that it is less. For a country as large as ours, we need more architects. Not only because there are more people, but our economy is tremendously growing. The cities are growing, towns are growing. So there's a phenomenal amount of construction that is needed. Okay? And the buildings and infrastructure is connected to the growing economy. And I'm sure you'd have read in the newspapers that India is one of the growing economies and much is expected. So in council's estimate, in the next 10 years at least, there's an anticipation that this number would be double. So we require far more architects, okay? So there is a certain demand for good buildings, good infrastructure projects, well-designed environment, well-designed cities. And the fundamental education that would possibly deliver this is architectural education. Now, architectural education, undergraduate, BArch, I would encourage you to think that it is a liberal education. It's a broad-based foundational degree with which you could go and start practicing, of course, not immediately, I'm sure, after some years of experience that you could design buildings and so on. But of late, most of them want to work for a few years and want to do post-graduation or take up research career or take up different career paths. You could be a practicing architect, you could be a consultant, you could be a researcher, you could be an academic, you could even be a financial consultant. How? For example, there are now large real estate companies like, I don't want to name them, but there are companies who would hire a designer to advise them on real estate feasibilities of projects. So architecture provides a good foundation from which you could move, as Mr. Habib Khan listed the various kinds of degrees. In that, there are conventional, I would normally describe this as going vertical or going horizontal. Going vertical means you do BR, you do MArch in design, you do MArch in urban design, etc. You can do horizontally, which means you will do, you can look at real estate, you can look at city planning. In fact, the current trends in research involves architects along with neuroscientists wondering what is the impact of built environment on the mental well-being of an individual. There are environmental psychologists who work with architects to know how memories are developed. There are tremendous advancement in data science and artificial intelligence, which looks at digital fabrication. How do you mine data and design customized workspaces? There's a lot of work in building science, which tells you how do you do a facade. Normally, a facade is designed like a pretty, but now buildings are conceived as skins, which breathes. So how do you mobilize technology and science to produce wonderful buildings? So there's enormous possibilities in architectural education. And there are many good colleges and institutes in this country. And not just because I'm an architect and I'm an educator, I think the picture looks good to me. Of course, a lot more hard work needs to be done, but this is a wonderful field to get in for those who are interested. Thank you so much. And if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Srivatsan sir. That was really enlightening. As I expected. Dr. Satish Kumar, would you like to again address the gathering?
I think we can go ahead with the questions.
Okay, sure. Okay. So I'd like to start. I have a question, but it's also tied to a question that one of our students has asked. I'm taking off from what Sir Habib Khan, sir, you spoke about. You spoke about the pandemic. And, we're going through difficult times, of course, extraordinary times. And studies show that transmission of diseases, whether it's TB or COVID, also take place because, we have poorly ventilated spaces. There are crowding waiting areas in hospitals and so on and so forth. So spaces can be designed well. The argument goes that they can also assist in the prevention, containment, and treatment of diseases. So, as one of our students, Shivani Yadav, has asked, how would architectural designs be revolutionized by these times? And do you think buildings will be different? Do you think this has given us an opportunity to think of how we can redesign our spaces, especially in a country like India, which is so densely populated? Habib Khan, sir, could you start, please?
Yeah. So this is a very, very interesting, intelligent question, because like Srivatsan sir just said, that buildings are designed like skins these days, which need to breathe. And unfortunately, our buildings are not breathing. We need to go back and learn from our history, from our tradition, from our heritage. And we need to, the problem is we need to bring that traditional wisdom back into architecture. Now, how do we do that? Keeping in mind the newer requirements, newer, design programs, how do we do that? The issue is all this is happening. See, I mean, before that, I'll tell you that now we are being told that air conditioning is not good. While just a month before the pandemic, we were air conditioning. Every space was air conditioned. Every building was air conditioned. We were creating this crime on the environment and on the resources of our country. And now we are told that this is not good. This is not good for health. The problem that has happened is because we architects or architectural fraternity has forgotten the use or the use of natural elements, cross ventilation, good air, good light, sunlight coming into our buildings, spaces which are very well ventilated in terms of natural ventilation, in terms of passive cooling, passive ventilation, wherein you use these natural elements which are more healthier than creating an environment which is artificially conditioned or which is artificially ventilated. So we need to go back to the traditional wisdom and bring that back in where I want my buildings to have natural sunlight coming in throughout the day. I want natural cross ventilation of air coming in, and so on and on. If we take care of these in design, I'm sure we will not be facing any such issues, pandemic or no pandemic.
Right. Srivatsan sir, would you like to add to that?
Yes, see, this is not the first time the humanity is facing a great situation as this. And every time we have come out with better solutions. For example, plague and influenza made a lot of difference to the way we did city planning. Same would happen now, because sometimes certain disasters like storm and so on could be predicted, but certain disasters are beyond prediction. So now the emphasis is increasingly in what is called resilience. How quickly can we get back? Because for some that we know we can prepare, for some we can't, we should focus more on resilience. So at a larger city planning, there's a lot of emphasis on city planning. So talking about air conditioning particularly, you would be knowing that there is a big competition going on called the global cooling competition, where now ACs are to be designed with only 30% of the energy that they consume. But this was before pandemic. But I'm sure now there would be an added clause to it saying what is the quality of air that it goes. So design constantly adjusts, and it should adjust. And I'm sure architects will find a solution, because our collective intelligence and individual intelligence is always in the service of humanity and better living conditions. And we are still yet to know fully the impact of this. We are slowly learning, but I have great confidence on, as the history repeatedly tells us, we have always found solution and would make our life better.
Right. So we have another interesting question. Someone is asking whether rural or urban architecture has more scope.
Yeah,
see, I'll just very quickly tell you in a sentence. The rural sector has been neglected by our fraternity. It has been more of an elitist profession, but it is time that we spread out and if not do our CSR, social responsibility, it should be taken as a conscious responsibility of developing that sector. Definitely that needs to be looked into by the fraternity.
Right. Dr. Satish sir, Dr. Srivatsan sir, what about you? What do you feel?
Yes, definitely, because see, without rural, nothing happens. Because whether you talk about artificial intelligence or augmented reality or whatever you talk about, ultimately we have to breathe air. Without air, the Panchaputas performs everything, and without which we cannot be. We can talk about sustainability, green concepts, or whatever. Ultimately, we have to breathe things, whatever fresh. As President was rightly telling, air conditioning. Why you want to condition the air, which is naturally available free of cost? So this corona pandemic has taught us, no, though shut down all the ACs and go naturally. So a lot of things, we'll learn by life lessons. Moreover, for probably many of the audience here, I would like to tell you, generally, the people finish up the forest and convert that into a small village. Later, it could be converted to a town or a city, then it could be made to metropolitan, megapolitan, or cosmopolitan, however it is on. But ultimately, when you talk about a Chennai city, we have a beautiful reserved forest of 1,000+ acres in the heart of the city, which is Governor Bangla, Raj Bhavan. So the city breathes very well. So he was talking about the building breathes. The city breathes very well. The temperature inside is well maintained, about 2 to 3 degrees lesser when compared to the road. The flora and fauna is very well maintained, except the wild animals. All the creatures lives very happily. Even we have the Indian Institute of Technology within that. A lot of other organizations is surveying, doing very well inside. There is a possibility. It is all our state of mind. So when we want to go for AC, yes, but really today's recent times people talk about green buildings and sustainability and what is green. Even a hut is a good green space. Right? There's nothing called rural or urban, and everything is equal wherever we are. I think that's much more open. I think as an institution, we have to create a lot of awareness among the society, among the students also, whom is going to be the tomorrow's professionals, and the professionals going to be great tomorrow on these areas.
I think the reality is for the next 25 years, given the predictions that tremendous amount of urbanization is expected. Okay, states like Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra are largely urbanized, more than 50%, but the national average is less. But the predictions are the population is going to urbanize. The economy is also very urban centric. Right. So naturally, there will be more opportunities in the next 2 decades in the urban sector. But however, whether that's good, yes, it's good in the sense that you are part of the larger growing urban economy. But at the same time, what is the quality of life in the rural areas is equally important. And whether the architectural education is able to address that, as Habib Khan said, it's primarily urban centric. But what's increasingly happening is there are schools which are coming in small towns. There are organizations which are working with artisans. There are organizations which are looking at what are the traditional building techniques and how do we do. Even Government of India's early schemes, the Pura, that how do you bring in urban services in rural areas, is also conscious of the fact. In fact, the ongoing project currently with the Ministry of Panchayati Raj is how do we bring in rural planning. So there is a lot of attention being paid to this. So I think there is enough opportunity and a necessity to work with rural planning. Architecture education is just making adjustments, but in a few years, I'm sure they would pay attention
to rural planning also. Okay. So do you think, sir, then it could become less elitist, as Habib Khan sir was saying?
Elite is nothing to do only with rural or urban. You could still be rural and still catering to the elites in the rural area. Right. So I think the question is, in any architectural program, if you see, there are enough opportunities, and opportunities are created to address real life problems, design problems, affordable housing, social housing. How do you sort of work with a tribal environment? What do you do with a fishing hamlet? So there is, but increasingly what we are finding is that the kind of design problems that architectural education is addressing currently has to sort of consciously evaluate whether they're addressing some social and environmental problems. I see in many schools there is rethinking about that, which was not there about 5 years ago. But currently, both from the environment and affordability, a lot of attention is being paid, and I think it's going in good direction.
Okay. So this is a rather specific question that has come from a student who asks, what is the significance of studying arches of historical buildings when they're not used in the contemporary world?
I'll ask a counter question. What is the significance and importance of knowing our father or mother? The same importance is to the study of arches, and it is a wrong assumption that arches are not used today.
Yeah. Okay. So Nandita, I hope you've got the answer to your question. Sir, Satish Kumar, sir, you had spoken about the various opportunities that SRM, the different kinds of courses that SRM provides. I think you had also spoken about how there are both full-time as well as part-time job opportunities in architecture. So one of the students wants to know what the part-time job opportunities are.
So all kind of jobs. In case this profession, architecture itself is a multifaceted personality. It's a multidisciplinary. It is not just it is focusing on to one particular context, talking about some engineering or whatever. This is a combination of art, science, engineering, technology. It's a combo pack of everything. The first year they do the basic design. The second year they do the rural design. The third year they do the architecture design. The fourth year, they do the urban design or a training or internship. The fifth year, they do the urban design and thesis. It's a combination of everything. And you can see any architect student will be totally different because the methodology of training himself itself is different, where you have an internship as a part of the academic curriculum. Very few courses like medicine and law, he's having this kind of curriculum, which is having an internship as a part of the academic curriculum. So not after the job, after the program, you can do part-time or full-time. Even the due course of the academic itself, it could be done. So even the recent times, the national education policies come forward. So 1 year you complete this, you and the second year, if you're for some unforeseen reason you are able to move away or exit, you will be given a certificate program. In the second year, if you're after completing the second year, if you're moving away, you may be getting a diploma program. When you're able to move away after the third year, you may be giving a degree program, which is again subject to that university as a master's degree of some course, maybe interior design or whatever. The fourth year, after they do this internship training and the urban design and thesis, when they come back and register themselves as an architect to the institution, to the Council of Architecture, they call as an architect. In the process, they have multiple opportunities. No, they don't do only rural design practice. They also do urban design practice. They don't do only classical architecture. They also do contemporary architecture. They do history of architecture. It is.
So I think the question was less about the course and more about part-time job opportunities.
That is what I mean to say. That is what I mean to say. So once you are equipped with multifaceted opportunity, whatever opportunity you get, you can do that, because you may be a designer, you may be a furniture designer, you can also be real estate practice. Earlier, the architect was the apex and all other courses comes along. Now you're also a part of that particular system. You can play a versatile role in the real estate industry, construction industry, project management, turnkey operations, interiors, landscape, much more to say. So what not in all the areas, not only that, even a journalism or a photography or an actor also, you can, even a politician as such, anything could be. This course will train them as a best for sure. It is a part-time or full-time career.
Right. So one of our students says that many people who study architecture here then later go abroad and do courses. So they're asking whether it's better to study in India or abroad, and what are the advantages. Habib Khan, sir, do you want to take this? Since you studied at the University of Illinois, you could also bring in a little bit of personal experience here.
See, I would categorically say that the undergrad education in our country is far better than any other country. But going abroad is not wrong. No one should stop you from going abroad to widen and broaden your horizons, have a different viewpoint, and learn something new or different, or to learn to look at something in a different way. It's always good to go. But I think undergrad education in our country is far better than any other country.
Okay. Yeah, I think that answers that question. Srivatsan, sir, you had spoken about the differences between engineering and architecture. So we have a question about the difference between civil engineering and architecture. And I'm going to tie this to another question from another student who says, is it true that architecture can only work mutually with civil engineers?
Certainly, a building is a collaborative project. A building requires designers, it requires somebody to construct, somebody to design the structures, etc. So just as many things, anything is a collaborative thing. There is nothing like a single person. So if you really want to make something, it involves more people, particularly buildings. Okay, there's no doubt. And absolutely an engineer is a twin profession. They may be sibling quarrels, but they're twins. Okay, so they work together. But there is also clear differences.
Just like,
sorry.
No, please. Sorry, sir. You continue.
So there is also differences in core competency. There are overlaps, but there are also very distinction, and we'll have to appreciate that. And it's absolutely necessary professionally to understand what is a core competency of an architect and what's a core competency of structure. Of course, I will have overlapping knowledge about structures, and the engineer will have some overlapping knowledge about. But if you see in the way I am trained as an architect, I pay substantial amount in designing, evaluating my design, not only for structures, but also evaluating for its performance in terms of energy consumption, material consumption. I'm more worried about how it sits on the road. Does it make a positive impact? What does it do? And certainly I pay a lot of attention to what people view it? How do they think about it? Not only the owners, but also public, whether I'm sticking out like a sore thumb and affecting my environment and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things which an architect thinks which an engineer doesn't. There are certain things which the engineer thinks which the architect. So we both respect our core competencies, but we often come together to produce some wonderful buildings.
It is very similar to a cardiologist who is operating on your heart. You know, he can't operate without an intensivist, without a radiologist, a pathologist, and the machines they use, which are made by biotechniques and things like that. So it's a collaborative process, like Professor Vasant has said. Cardiologist cannot say, I'll only operate on the heart and no one else will. He cannot do that without the instruments that he uses, which are made by engineers. So it's like, it's a collaborative process.
Okay, so but taking off from that also, is it true that engineers and statisticians have dominated urban development and architects have been left behind a little bit? Do you think architects can help more in urban development in India, in the Indian context?
You want me to answer?
Sure.
Now, this is not a race which we all are running in. This is not a case of winning a war or something. Like, again, I'm saying it's a collaborative process, and because architects are less in number, it is felt that they have been overtaken by others, but it's not like that. But it gives rise to a larger and a wider question, which is the awareness of architecture and related disciplines in the society. When that happens, this question will not arise. But it's not a question of supremacy, dominance, or winning or anything. Nothing of that sort.
Right. Okay. So a collaborative effort. That's the answer, students. So the thing is, we have nowadays very few buildings that are earthquake proof. So 90% of buildings in Delhi, which is Delhi is an area which comes, I think, in zone 3 or 4. I'm not sure, but according to a study, they're said to be at risk of collapse if there is a strong earthquake. And in Chennai, 80% of its buildings are said to be at risk if there is even a moderate earthquake. Do you think, how much responsibility do architects have in ensuring that buildings are safe? And do you think that over the past few years, there has been more emphasis on this and there's been more improvement in making buildings safer given the recent disasters that we've had? Srivatsan sir?
Safety is paramount. There is no compromise about it. The professional responsibilities are also clearly written down, okay, which goes into forms of agreement. And when I put a sign on my drawing, I take responsibility for what the drawing contains. And as an architect, I'm led by my structural engineer's recommendations, and the structural engineering drawings guarantees the safety of the building, not only for earthquake, even generally speaking. Now, so there is a certain contractual agreement on the various responsibilities. And these increasingly, building profession is getting conscious of these legalities, where who takes responsibility for what and how it is spelled out, are increasingly becoming important. So the architect, if he takes or she takes responsibility for the full building, then a lot of responsibilities fall on it. Sometimes in very large project, the responsibilities get split because somebody commissions it differently. So there is a different kind of arrangement. That's the first part of the question, that safety is important, and everyone have to be worried about that. And in terms of retrofitting, as we see, for example, zones are being rezoned for its vulnerability. And people are now even talking about micro-zoning cities, not just city, but within cities, what should be the micro-zones. If there is a new regulation in future, which reclassifies my area, and naturally then I need to refit that building, retrofit it. So I'm sure the engineers and architects are constantly keeping a tab on what's happening, and I'm sure they're equipped to retrofit these buildings.
Okay. Habib Khan, sir, someone is asking how closely architecture and interior designing are related, and what is the scope for interior designing in India?
Of course, they are related, and an architect can do interior design, but an interior designer cannot design buildings like an architect does. They are interrelated, intertwined, and very much a part of the same profession. The scope of interior, I would only give an example that the cost of construction that goes into making a building or constructing a plain building is much, much less than the cost of furnishing.
Right.
The kind of money that goes into furnishing a project is almost double than what it goes in making that building. So that probably answers directly that there's a lot of scope for interior design. And I feel that these two are the most closest of relationship that exist in a profession. And if you are an architect, you can definitely engage in interior design, do the interior design of your project.
Yeah.
Or you have to work in very close coordination and cohesion with the interior designer. Personally, my opinion is a little different, that the architect should design in such a manner that no interior design per se is needed, but that's a different matter of discussion.
Okay. Satish Kumar sir, I'm going to pose this to you, but Srivatsan sir and Habib Khan sir, please do pitch in if you also would like to say something. Someone is asking, are robotics and artificial intelligence related to architecture?
Definitely, it is the need of the hour because yearly, probably 6 months before, we don't know what is called Zoom. And today, many of us live with Zoom. So definitely another 3-4 years time minimum, this artificial intelligence and this augmented reality and this kind of technology takes upper hand. Probably 3,000 years before this Tanjore temple was built, it was all with elephants and no other animals. But these days it is very simple because of technology what we have, and it is definitely an upgraded version. And tomorrow, probably definitely these robotics will come into existence. A lot of technology will play a very vital role. Undoubtedly, probably the manpower may be reduced and the technical power will increase. Of course, the manpower may be used for some other better purposes. And as Dr. Sivas was referring, there is another 5-10 more years of time. We need the architects doubled. We have about approximately 1 lakh of architects for about 130 crores of people in the country. At least it needs double or triple another 5-10 years of time. That is what the whole council, the whole fraternity is working for. I'm sure it happens.
Yeah, the robotics and artificial intelligence are increasingly becoming hot topics in architecture design. I had personally visited one lab in Bartlett in London and I saw this fantastic facility that they have. So prototyping, digital fabrication, even 3D printing, etc. These are all really ongoing technologies in this, because increasingly the gap between drawing board and construction site is being reduced by use of certain kind of materials. And digital fabrication plays a very important role. And robo in particular is being used, as I saw in some of the architects' work, the way they assemble bricks in an absolutely an unimaginable way and do it well, do it efficiently. And similarly, artificial intelligence of studying patterns of different kinds, even design processes are being closely studied. The data of how we use a space and how could we use the data to efficiently customize it using mass production technology. So there's a whole gamut of things that are happening at the technology level. And architects are, there's a whole stream of architects who embrace technology, and a good number of them, good designers, are known to actually proactively engage with the technology. And there are certain schools abroad extensively into computation, robotics, and digital fabrication, etc. In India, it's yet to develop much. We have a lot to catch up there. But abroad, I know of quite a few schools are into it.
Right. Habib Khan, sir, could you
let
tell us a
us
little?
understand.
Yeah.
Let us understand one thing, that artificial intelligence is basically fed by human intelligence, and the problem will happen when the artificial intelligence will take over the human intelligence. Until then, all is well.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a question that's sort of related to this question. Since the topic of this webinar is about the current and emerging trends of architecture, compared to when, say, you were all in college and studying and were perhaps had the same kinds of questions that our students have today about what are the job opportunities and so on. What has changed? I mean, what opportunities are there today for students that were not there earlier, and what opportunities do you see coming up in the future? Srivatsan sir, could you go first?
I studied in the 80s. I graduated, my undergraduate was in the 80s. At the time, there were only 2 colleges in Tamil Nadu. Now there are phenomenally more. That's only one part of the story. But the main part of the story is there's a tremendous amount of exposure now. Those were days, I'm even a pre-television person. So, then I'm also a pre-internet person. So the amount of exposure is phenomenal now. So the access to information is fantastic. 1. 2, now there is far more mobility of experts. The colleges are inviting people from different places. People are interested in coming to colleges, etc. And there is a great amount of awareness in the current generation. And there's tremendous amount of homework and things like that as to what they want to do, where they want to work. They even know which architect not to work with, and so on and so forth. But they do quite a bit of thing, and I'm quite appreciative of this fact. Now, there are also certain flip side to that, just like any other story of how to use information and so on and so forth, which is applicable to any. So there's a lot more opportunity today, and there's a lot more wonderful work that you can see. 2 years ago, there was an exhibition in Bombay called The State of Architecture in India. The 3rd floor of that exhibition all showcased contemporary works. Most of them are below 45. Some fabulous stuff, and I'm so thrilled looking at that because it infuses a great amount of hope in you. So there are more good buildings coming, there are more good architects, and I'm also finding good architects in small towns like Thrissur and other places, which brings me a lot of hope and encouragement.
Right. Habib Khan sir?
See, I'm also an 80s child, so to say, and things have changed drastically. And I totally agree with Dr. Srivatsan when he says that the amount of exposure and information that is available is phenomenal. And the information that is available, the challenge that lies with today's students and the teachers is that the information that is available on your fingertips needs to be processed into knowledge, and that knowledge into wisdom. And that's a very, very important aspect that we should concentrate on. And as far as future avenues and opportunities, I think a vast field of technology and information technology is available. The user interface design, the human-computer interaction, the artificial intelligence is an avenue which has been opened up for architects to go. And I know so many students who have diversified themselves with architectural background into human-computer interface. And that's a vast field that is open to all the students. And I also once again stress that we should open up the field of rural and agricultural sector for our architects, and we need to concentrate there and see how meaningfully we as architects can contribute to that sector, and that will open up huge and large avenues for not only employment but meaningful contribution to the country.
Right. Satish Kumar sir?
So I think there are very beautiful answers given by both the eminent personalities. So for the audience, again, please put the question once again so that I can give an answer from my version, because I'm much 20 years behind them, but still I could answer it better. For the audience.
Of course, yeah. So since the topic of today's webinar is the current and emerging trends in architecture, we see today that there are more opportunities than there were many years ago, as in every other field. So my question to you was, what kind of opportunities are you seeing now that were not there earlier? And what kind of opportunities do you think there will be in future that are not there right now?
That was a tremendous opportunities which is going to happen, and it is not just earlier. Probably as well, my teacher, Dr. Stevenson, is here, and when he was teaching me 20 years before, the methodology of teaching was different, right? And no, we looked at our teachers like that. Even now, I look at him like that only. But on the other side, today, I'm telling you very honestly, the students are much equipped because of technological advancement. They are very good in the softwares. They are very good in the advancement. They are very good in the technology, right? And the teachers also should get advanced or equally, because many of them are challenged. Because I'm talking about the transformation, what Dr. Abhibkar was rightly said in the 80s and 90s. We are in 2020. Right? There's a very big transformation happen, and the opportunities is very tremendous because those who are very good in softwares, very good in technology, very good in creativity, very good in hands, and very good in kind of any other things coming forward, take it up. I'm sure the opportunity is tremendously very good. It is. I don't think there's any difference between a rural and an urban. Doesn't make much difference. It's only the hands, the state of mind. And when you're able to learn the technology, the current conditions, the situations, the opportunities are very vital, and the advancement in the career is going to be so big. And you can see many renowned architects in the country today have come from a very poor background or from a rural background, for sure.
Okay. Okay, again, this is a question to all of you. Maybe Habib Khan sir, we can start with you. Compared to the West, India's record in preserving its heritage is rather poor. So the question is, what kind of scope is there for architects to contribute to conservation of our heritage?
Absolutely phenomenal. And I totally agree that our approach and our attitude towards our heritage conservation is not only poor, but very abysmal. We have really neglected, we have not exploited the wealth of tradition and the wealth of living cultural heritage and built cultural heritage that we have not concentrated on that. And the avenues and the opportunities available in this particular field is phenomenal. You just go to England and see how they have exploited their heritage and their built heritage into commercial ventures, into converting into tourism, linking tourism with their conservation and heritage is phenomenal. And in fact, I had attended a course there, University of Westminster, where they were teaching how heritage can be linked with tourism to generate and rejuvenate local economies. We should learn from that example, and I think it is an endless possibility if we are able to do that.
So to pose the question a little differently, as you said, the scope is endless. So why is it that why is our record still so abysmal then? If the scope is so much, what prevents us or what stops us or what are the hurdles?
First of all, we should start respecting our heritage. We should start loving it. And when we do that, we will find out ways and means to preserve it. Let's say, give an example, let's say I personally own a heritage building and I want to conserve it, restore it, but I have no money to do that, which is usually the case with most of the heritage structures, which are not taken over by the government. And what do? The government does not pay me enough money or any money at all to preserve it, yet it is a listed building. What do I do? So unless I bring in economic policies, finances to preserve my building, how will it get preserved, or how will it get conserved? It will happen only when I make it into a commercial venture wherein I am not spoiling my heritage, I am not destroying my heritage, and yet I am able to market it so effectively that I am able to generate revenues to preserve it. And why it has not happened, it is because we as a community do not have value or respect for our culture and tradition. It is as simple as that.
Srivastava, so I'm sure none of us can argue with that. That is, of course, it's so true. But would you like to add anything else to that?
India's engagement with the conservation of monuments is more than we have done reasonably well in preserving monuments, but there are enough number of monuments still remains to be protected and protected better. But the challenge that we are all talking about is what happens to non-monumental architecture. We are not talking about a temple here and a palace there and a fort here. We are talking about cities such as Srirangam, Amritsar, or Old Delhi, or Banaras, or any such place. So that's the real challenge. So there was this movement to conserve this non-monumental heritage started in the 80s with the formation of INTAC and so on. There's enormous progress made insofar as knowledge base, skill sets, and creating a certain awareness, but it has not made any substantial impact on the ground. Okay, there are very few places and projects that you could show where people are still struggling, and they have shown with tremendous, in an impressive way that how you can reuse a building, how can it be put to better use, what is the economic advantage of preserving buildings, and you have some stellar examples across the country. And there are also colleges, at least 3-4 colleges, which offers a master's program in conservation, which produces roughly about 40-50 conservation architects. The market or the demand for conservation architects is relatively low. Partly it comes like what Abhi Khan said, it's partly a cultural issue, and partly it's also, it's only in the recent times probably we have heard about World Heritage Cities, Jaipur, and increasingly I'm sure governments will realize the importance both culturally and also economically of keeping, conserving buildings and cities, and not making them as showcases and museum pieces, but as a very important places of life, gives you alternative for those who want to take up those kind of lifestyles and live in those kind of environments, which is an absolutely a necessity in any city in terms of diversity of living environments. I'm sure we have to do a lot more, and it's a long way to go. And there are quite a number of conservation architects and institutions which are really keeping up the pressure, building at capacities. Every opportunity they're given, they've really done well. I hope it picks a lot more than what it is now.
Right.
Radhika,
yes.
Yeah, because since we are at the end of the session, I would like to put it to you. There's a few questions that have come. I would like to have it within a minute's time.
Sure.
Yes. So there was one question, can I do architecture? And one more like investing in architecture. I don't know what they're trying to say. And that is one question. The second one was employment in government sectors. And for somebody who has put that question, I'd like to tell you, can I do architecture? Yes, definitely. It's something like, can I do singing? Yes, you can do singing. If you can sing, yes, you can sing. I'm telling you, I'm very putting straightly to you. Everybody cannot sing. It made me attempt. So this is the only kind of creative course which is having aptitude. We check on the aptitude. Right? Any other course may have an engineering, they have an entrance examinations or whatever different kind. This is the only course where we check on the aptitude, whether the candidate is having aptitude to get into this particular program, because they are going to spend the whole of the life into it. So, of course, can you sing? Yes, definitely. You can sing by doing the practice. You have to practice it very well. So the same way, even architecture should also be. It's almost like swimming. It's almost like singing. So architecture should also be practiced very well. It could not be taught just by books. It has to be jumped in and practiced accordingly. Investing in architecture, like it is living. Right? There's something called investment. It's a part of life. And again, the employment in government sectors, they were asking. I'm telling you very openly for somebody who has put that question. We have an enormous opportunity in the government sectors. We talk about, because I'm an architect, I want to design a building space and I go and give my drawings to the authorities. Probably, of course, today, since we are very negligent in numbers, they may not be taken up. And tomorrow, the government policies will come forward and appoint architects. There could be junior architect or senior architect. The architects are required in municipality, corporations, panchayat, and the development authority. There could be CMDA, DDA, BDA, or wherever it is. And you just look into the districts or states, the whole of country, so much of requirements are there in all these areas, but the whole of the architects across the country is only 1 lakh. And I'm just talking about the government sector alone. And apart from that, that's only a service. And then to get into a real-time practice, there's so much of requirements are available in, especially in demands, but it has to be practiced very well with perfection. That is what it is. And living architecture, it has to be lived. And you're, for example, everything is not commercial again. Probably Dr. Stevenson is a real example, a good creator. Anybody can live architecture and feel that passion of living. To be happy itself is a great living. Any architect will be that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Habib sir and Srivatsan sir, there's also a question on how, this is of course a question we get for every one of our webinars. Is it a financially stable career option in comparison to other career options?
I would say there's a difference between a 100-meter dash and a marathon. 100-meter dash is always glamorous, while you would be able to tell me who the fastest man on earth is, fastest woman on earth is, but you will not be able to name the 40-kilometer marathon winner. Architectural profession is a marathon race, where you begin slowly in the beginning, but then you catch up, and then you are probably, amongst the well-paid professional compared to any other profession. So comparing it with the immediate placement opportunities after graduation, it will be a little less financially, but on the long run, after a couple of years, it becomes one of the best paying professions.
Srivatsan sir?
As Habib Khan has rightly said, it's a profession of long haul, but that's if you want to practice. Practice, if you set up your own firm and you want to do it, it's certainly a long haul, and it's closely connected to the economy and so on, okay, as you practice. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. Initial phases will always be struggle, because you're like any other entrepreneur. You're setting up an office, projects won't come to you. You see, so you need to establish yourself. You have to mobilize your networks, etc. So if you take the route of practicing, it's a profession of the long haul, okay? And there will be always moments of self-doubt, because when you look somebody, I will use a wonderful analogy, someone would be running fast on a parallel track, and while you'll be running slow, because your race is different, that is different. In fact, it's not a race either. Now, but there are other career opportunities. For example, using architecture, you move into more like, let's say you do a master's in real estate management, and you're part of a larger organization which deals with finances and investment, etc. There, the pay scales are different, but you'll be working for a company. You won't be on your own. Okay. Now you specialize in technology. For example, now there is a new breed of consultants coming out called the energy consultants. So before you build, you want to know how much your building is doing. They charge far more than what a designer would charge. So it depends on which stream you are taking. The pay scales are different. Okay, you can work in an office, and you can stay with an office. So there's also a difference between a small office and a corporate office. The pay scales are different. So you need to be clear as to what you want and what you want to trade off and what you want to gain. So it depends on this. But if most of the architects try to practice on their own, and that's a long haul thing, and that takes a lot of effort, initial 5 to 10 years. And then probably once they set, then it's a different story.
I'll just ask 2 more questions and then maybe wrap up. Srivatsan sir, quickly, because someone wants to know, what is the scope for architectural journalism?
Okay. I see increasingly, I find people want to know more about buildings, good buildings. Currently, it is more in the realm of lifestyle. So you would find more like a lifestyle approach to design, a lovely interior, a great product, etc. But any society which is interested in valuing design want to discern what is a good building as against a not so good building. How do you comment, etc. Will certainly look for journalism, and there is a window opening. There are not many architecture publications. There are some 4 or 5 of them. So because that is also tied to the awareness and the larger economy, etc. So currently it's a very limited window. but that's if you want to work for a magazine or a newspaper. But if you're generally looking at writing about architecture, history, contemporary practices, politics, why not even a fiction? So those are different areas. But
Right.
as a profession, it's limited now.
And also, they want to know what stream they should take in the 11th and 12th. Is it better to take science, commerce, humanities? Does it make a difference?
For architecture, it's only PCM, physics, chemistry, and mathematics.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That also answers another person's query, which is, oh, do I have to study math to become an architect? I'm really sorry, but you have to. And the last question, please, anybody is free to answer. We had spoken a little bit about sustainability, but someone says nowadays this word is thrown around a lot and we talk about sustainable architecture. So could you elaborate a little bit more on what the sustainable architecture is?
So in my view, sustainability is an underpinning thing. You can't these days do any design which is not responsible environmentally. It will not be accepted. Of course, there's still some practices and buildings which do not do that, but it's a matter of time. And it's a choice because it's a choice now, but in times to come, there will be no choice but to do it far more environmentally responsible. That's a broad answer to the question. Second, there are different ways in which architecture programs engage with it. There are some very broad-based things of how do you sort of integrate with basic principles. There are some very specialized programs which either looks at materials or, for example, the institute I come from has a master's program which talks about if I give you a design, will you be able to tell me what is the energy consumption in this building? Can you also advise me how to reduce the energy consumption, etc.? So these are very sophisticated programs, niche programs. But there are also programs where in general design education, these things are slowly being built or very explicitly being built, both in terms of material, in terms of design principles, and in terms of technology.
Okay. Last question.
I've been practicing architecture since almost 30 years, and with a particular thought process. And suddenly, a few years ago, I was told that what you're doing is sustainable. What you do is green. What you're doing is environment friendly. But I think all these labels are all superficial. What matters is what you do and the kind of buildings and architecture that you produce, with a fundamental thought process that wherever your building dies, it should merge with Mother Earth, and that is the fundamental of. And all labels are useless.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That we'll discuss some other time probably.
That's beautifully put, sir. And the last question someone's asking: is it possible to have another Taj Mahal in India in today's time?
Of course, of course. Taj Mahal is not the end or is not the full stop of architecture in India. There have been so many buildings better than probably Taj Mahal, or we can make more better architecture than it was. It's everything has to be viewed in a time frame. Taj Mahal was built at that time, few hundred years ago, and now we have to strive to make something like that. And there is good architecture being produced not only in India, across the world.
Right. Okay, sir, thank you so much. I wish we could take more questions, but I think we have to wrap up because we're running out of time. Habib Khan, sir, thank you. You spoke about what architecture is, why it's related to so many fields, why it's such a noble profession, how it shapes society, and how diverse a field it is. And of course, given the enormous experience that you've brought into your talk, I think it was really useful for the students. So thank you so much for taking time off and participating today. Srivatsan sir, thank you for speaking about some things that all of us confuse, concepts that we all confuse with one another, such as how are buildings different from architecture, how is architecture and design different, and also something that I think is quite important, how architecture can also impact mental health, the difference between rural and urban and so on. You too bring a lot of academic expertise as well as journalism. From a wide variety of fields, you bring in a lot of experience. So I think that too would have been very useful for our students. Thank you for taking time off. And Satish Kumar sir, thank you so much for telling us about all the various courses that SRM has, and for actually answering a lot of the students' questions in the beginning through your presentation, because a lot of them actually just want to know in which kind of specific fields they can branch out into. So I think you answered that pretty well. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you to SRM University. That's it from me today. Thank you all. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Engineering, Medical and Health Sciences, Management, Dental, Science and Humanities, Law, Agriculture Sciences, Hotel Management. Admissions open.